What's up, everyone? It is March 3rd, 2020, the day the Final Fantasy VII Remake would have been released today, but Square needed more time, so they delayed it. We understand. But today, I'm gonna look at a certain review from way back in 2009, a time when Final Fantasy VII was fun to hate. It was a trend for a while. 10 years ago, this game got a lot of crap. I brought this up when I talked with Ruby of Blue when we were discussing 2010 Sonic games. The adventure games get hate now as much as Final Fantasy VII did back then. That time has passed. Everyone loves Final Fantasy VII, and the remake is practically here. Just one more month, and I think the demo is ready. But let's look back on the worst Final Fantasy VII review I have ever read. And this is not an attack on the guy who made this review. It's an observation at a time when a game was so popular, there was a point where it became a trend to rip on it. So, no personal vendetta against this guy. I'm not sure if he has the same outlook on Final Fantasy VII now as he did back then. Maybe if he saw this video, he'd feel embarrassed. I can't believe I wrote that. This review is from the website VentureBeat, and I don't know anything about this website. I don't know if it's for entertainment, for news, I'm not sure. This is the only thing I know about it. So this is not a rant on VentureBeat. I don't want anyone to lose their jobs or anything. I'm just looking back on the outdated outlook on this game back in the late 2000s. So let's dive in and see the worst review of the game. A case study of Final Fantasy VII, why it sucks. Final Fantasy VII sucks tremendously. I know that there are plenty of hardcore fans that say it's the greatest Japanese role-playing game JRPG of all time. Let me counter that argument first by saying, I am right and you are wrong. Classy? Now before you get all defensive on me, let me explain why it sucks. Bearing in mind that years of Squaresoft-induced rage have influenced me to write this article using a passive-aggressive tone. Many people that like Final Fantasy VII do so because it was the first JRPG they ever played. Yeah, tell that to the great Clement. He started with Final Fantasy IV, and he still says that 7 is his favorite. He replayed it a few years ago, and yeah, it holds up. If you played Final Fantasy IV through 6 first, you would hopefully realize that they are better games with better character growth systems, better stories, and even though the graphics are not as advanced, I think they hold up better over time. Okay, Final Fantasy VII is a 5th gen game, and I know 5th gen games can look blocky and a little jagged, but they have charm to them. Final Fantasy VII was revolutionary for its graphics at the time, and they do have a polish to them, a special kind of 5th gen polish. If you play them and still think Final Fantasy VII is the greatest, you shame me. My condolences. Face the corner of the room and stand there in silence. Please remain in that position for the rest of your life. Alright, here's a tip. If you're making a review, don't antagonize the reader. Don't antagonize the audience. It's a bad first impression, and they'll just quit the review right now. The battle system and story are the most important elements of a JRPG. It bothers me that Final Fantasy VII fails to add anything meaningful to the active time battle system already used in Final Fantasy IV through 6, other than the change that they made into the length of summon spells. Have you not played this game? The materia system. Any character can use any materia, any elemental power. And the limit breaks. Every character has a super move. You take enough damage, you're in a tight spot, you can whip out a super powerful attack and just wail on the enemy. That's not revolutionary. Oh, sorry. Hit the mic. That's not revolutionary enough for you? Every game after this does that. The overdrives in Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy XII has special attacks too. 7 introduced that. I cast Bahamut Zero for the first time when I was in high school, and when the cutscene was done playing, I was 46 with arthritis and a swollen prostate. The summons don't take that long. I think they're longer in 8. Whatever, this is exaggerating. And I'm not trying to pick on 8. Don't get me started on the use of save points in random battles. JRPG mainstays that exist only to waste my time. This isn't exclusive to 7. A lot of JRPGs have these save points in random battle encounters. Why are you putting it here? This could be used in a blog about JRPGs in general. I have plenty of better things to do, like attending World of Warcraft conventions, staying indoors to maintain my pastry complexion, and writing sarcastic yet brilliant articles for bitmob.com. Okay, this is coming off as desperate now. You're just writing things you would rather do than play the game, but you're not focusing enough on the game. It's like you played this game for a few minutes, then just gave up. Then there's the materia system, which essentially lets you give any ability to any character. An idea which was executed far better in previous games such as Final Fantasy V. I am outraged that the materia system attempts to hide the lack of progression in a workable but overused battle system, but Final Fantasy VII illustrates an even bigger problem that still exists in many modern JRPGs. The story sucks and the characters are terrible. The materia system works well here. It didn't feel like it wasted your time. You could build up materia and give it to another character, and the stats don't reset. They're still powerful. I could increase the cure stat as Barret, hand it to Tifa, and she can use the cure power. So you say the characters are terrible. Please elaborate. Cloud, the main character in Final Fantasy VII, is a sword-wielding, spiky-haired hero that suffers from amnesia. Imagine that. Let me be clear. After Planescape Torment and Memento, there was no reason to use amnesia ever again in a story. Planescape Torment and Memento were released after Final Fantasy VII. This game came out in '97. Let me check. Planescape release date December 12th, 1999. Memento. It was 2000, right? 2001. Wait, 2000, whatever. Yeah, 7 came out before those did. The whole amnesia story. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII made that popular in a lot of JRPGs. Did you proofread this? Where were we? It is the most overused plot device in JRPGs, and it's just getting silly at this point. Sure, at this point by 2009, but this was 1997. I don't think the amnesia twist was used that often back then. There was Spawn, and I can't think of other examples back in the 90s. Also, please direct your attention to his name, Cloud Strife. His name is half hippie, half emo, and all lame. Ah, there's the word emo. We don't use you anymore. You're a 2009 thing. Yeah, Cloud's name, so Final Fantasy heroes. Some names depend on the weather or natural parts of, well, nature. You got Titus, Tide, Lightning. Terra from Final Fantasy VI. Given, Terra could be like an earthly, kind of demonic name, depending on how you use it. And Strife, War, he's a soldier. I think that was the intention. And hippie? Where'd he get an hippie from? And lame. How is he lame? You gotta explain these things. You can't just say something is like that and just move on. The other characters are cliches as well. Barret is a clone of Mr. T. Cid is a clone of every other Cid in a Final Fantasy game. Aeris is the girl whose magic powers will determine the fate of the world. Cait Sith is the bizarre anime character that has no place in the story. Okay, a clone of Mr. T? Okay, from the looks, sure, but his character? No, Barret is he's a guy who feels regret for introducing Shinra and their Mako reactors into his hometown. A disaster happens and Barret feels responsible. He is shunned by his town and he moves out to basically start a war against Shinra. Has Mr. T ever done that? Okay, Cid, this is a trend. There's a Cid in every game and they're airship experts. Aerith does have magic powers and she tries to determine the fate of the world. There's more to her than that. Talk about her personality. She's sweet. She's caring. And Cait Sith. Cait Sith, the cat Cait Sith, isn't really the guy you think he is. It's a robot cat being controlled by Reeve, a higher-ranking official who feels shame for what the company has done. And he uses the robot cat to work with Cloud to sabotage Shinra. I could go on, but there is one particular character that requires a closer look. I am referring to the worst character to ever grace a video game. Yuffie. The worst, huh? Not Porky Mensch? Yuffie? Yuffie's the worst. I'm curious to see what he says about Yuffie. Why do I hate such an adorable, fun-loving ninja? First of all, her name is Yuffie. So what? Come on, the name? The name bothers you? Second, ninjas are neither fun-loving nor adorable. Michelangelo has something to say to you. The only things that make ninjas happy are infiltration, wanton carnage, and the taste of their enemy's blood. Do you know what a ninja does? Yeah, there is violence and assassinations, but they mostly do intel, get information, and come back. Yuffie is portrayed as the stereotypical anime chick that jumps up and down screaming, "Yatta!" in a perversely happy state that makes me want to vomit. Yuffie is a spunky teenage girl, that's how she is. Most importantly, she is the first ninja to ever suck. Yuffie doesn't suck, so let's keep going. Ninjas are inherently awesome and can be put in any setting to make it cooler. Imagine if you added ninjas to the bridges of Madison County and they just started chopping up Meryl Streep's character with a katana blade. I haven't seen this movie, and I'm not exactly going to start picturing it. Moving on. That would be hella cool. The point being, ninjas remain awesome in spite of their lame surroundings. Yuffie is the only ninja to ever break this tradition. I think you're getting ninja confused with barbarian. In fact, several scientific studies have proven that even the American ninja is approximately 8 billion times cooler than Yuffie. What scientific studies? Where? Where is your source? This guy really hates Yuffie. And he never talks about what she does in the game. I think he just saw her, artwork and said, no. Where does she live? What weapon does she use? He's not talking about the game. He's nitpicking. This is nitpicking on a magnitude I have never seen before. Having suffered through the worst character designs ever to grace a Final Fantasy, you would hope that the story would carry the game. The worst character designs? Tetsuya Nomura of Kingdom Hearts did the designs for the characters. They look amazing. What is your problem? Not so. I will now summarize the plot for you in a highly accurate fashion while taking great care to maintain the integrity of its intricate storyline. Oh, now you're talking about the plot. Okay, you're gonna describe the story. I think I know where this is headed. Cloud has amnesia, and he's totally lame. You already did that. He lives in a technologically advanced steampunk setting and blows up some stuff. There's a bit more to it than that. He's a part of Avalanche. He works to bring down Mako reactors made by Shinra to save the planet from being drained. And technologically advanced Midgar, well, the whole setting, Gaia, I think it's called, it's not that technologically advanced. This isn't Final Fantasy XIII. It's more modern day, with a more grunge look to it, like Final Fantasy grunge. Upon leaving this highly futuristic city, he finds that the entire surrounding world looks like a generic Final Fantasy countryside. The overworld is meant to look like a meadow at first. Every game does this. Everyone with an overworld. You praise 4 through 6, and you're indirectly nitpicking those games because they also have countryside-looking overworlds. It's like leaving the dystopian setting of Neo-Tokyo and winding up in Tennessee for the rest of the game. Midgar is meant to look highly advanced because that's where Shinra is. They abuse their power to make the city look, well, advanced, and everything else is trying to get by. So, Cloud meets Sephiroth, who is also emo. Stop using emo. He tries to listen to Blink 182 to calm down, but is still filled with teen angst towards mom and dad. Are you going to talk about the story in detail or not? And, Sephiroth's motivation? He hates mom and dad? He believes that if he's reunited with Jenova, who's his alien mother, his blood comes from Jenova, he believes it will make him a god. He has this, god complex. He goes insane. He starts killing people. He has to be stopped, and Cloud looked up to him. Sephiroth was his hero, but Cloud sees him for who he really is, and Cloud has to muster the strength and courage to stop him. Final Fantasy VII's story is brilliant. You're nitpicking it. You're not seeing it for what it is. To get back at them for being mean, Sephiroth arbitrarily burns down a village and summons a meteor. I have never seen the Fire of Nibelheim summed up so lazily. Cloud's home village, This is where Sephiroth learns where he came from. This is where he stops being Cloud's hero, and this is where his path of a villain begins. And yeah, Meteor, the one that will destroy the world unless Cloud and everyone destroys Sephiroth to stop the meteor. Your party member, Aerith, decides that she is going to use the power of love to stop him and get stabbed in the back for saying stuff like that. Dude, this is Aerith, the nicest character in the game. You don't sum up something like that in such a callous way. This is just getting sick. In a scene that is not touching at all and is poorly executed, she dies. Dude, don't spoil the game. Not everyone has played it. I haven't played this game until 2009, and I'm glad I never saw this back then. Whoops, I should have put a spoiler alert for that, but you can't ruin a story that is already bad. It's not bad, you just don't like it. Because hating on 7 was the fun thing to do back then, and it got in your head and made you think that it sucks. It's like if I hated Mother 3. I'm just gonna say what happens at the end because I think it's terrible, and you should all think it too. Like, you don't do that. Cloud forgets to cast Resurrection on her because he has amnesia. Then Cloud kills Sephiroth and saves the day. There are some other characters in there that are of no importance to the story, none of which are named Yuffie. You haven't mentioned Tifa or Red 13 once. Also, Shinra, you never mentioned Shinra. And enough with Yuffie. You don't know anything about Yuffie. Even if there was a character named Yuffie in this story, she would be too lame for me to acknowledge her existence. Will you shut up about Yuffie? You don't know who she is, what her personality is like, what she does in the story. And too lame to acknowledge? You acknowledged her more than Cloud. Oh, I forgot. Cloud thinks he is some guy named Zack for no apparent reason. Finn, don't go there, man. Do not go there. Zack showed Cloud the ropes. Zack was Cloud's friend and soldier. When Cloud was too, comatose to move after Hojo's experiments, Zack helped him up, put him in that truck, and risked his life to protect Cloud. This is the worst description of a story in a review I have ever seen. Now you hopefully understand why Final Fantasy VII sucks. If you still think Final Fantasy VII is a good JRPG after my amazingly well-written and compelling article, let's not be friends, ever. Okay, don't pat yourself on the back. If you have a counter-argument explaining why Final Fantasy VII is good, please deposit it in the nearest trash bin. Don't talk to your viewers this way. It's immature and unprofessional. I won't be able to read it since I will be too busy playing Fallout, Dragon Age, and Knights of the Old Republic. Wow, we've come a long way since 2009. I am so glad this trend stopped. This is not only the worst Final Fantasy VII review, it's probably one of the worst reviews I have ever read. Have you noticed he didn't talk about the game itself that much? He brought a few elements of it and just nitpicked and nitpicked. He ranted about Yuffie for paragraphs, and he didn't mention Wu-Tai once. He didn't bring up the Ancients. He didn't bring up the giant walking weapons near the end of the story. He didn't bring up Hojo. He didn't bring up Vincent. All the stuff he didn't acknowledge because I'm convinced he didn't play it. This is what happens when hating on a game becomes the hit thing. Hating on a popular game, using this as clickbait, write a half-assed review, and you just end up with this garbage. That video by IGN and GameScoop back in 2016, where they rant Sonic was never any good, that feels like the spiritual successor to this review. I shouldn't call it a review, I should call it an embarrassment. So, again, I'm not hating on the guy who made this. This is looking back on a time when this game was despised. That time is over. Final Fantasy VII is getting the praise it earns. And the remake. The remake will be out in a month. I just wanted to share this. Thanks for watching. Till next time.